The next question on my list here for myself and for future guests is how did I go from being a college dropout to being a solutions architect? So let's start with when and why I dropped out. I dropped out 4 years ago, January 2019, because I felt stretched thin. I was playing college basketball at Westminster College, which in and of itself is almost a full-time job between the travel and practice and workouts, making sure you're eating the right food, studying film. It's a lot. And it was a lot of fun, but it was definitely time consuming and physically taxing. I was also taking 16 credits. I was a very serious student. I had never gotten anything lower than an A until I went to Westminster College and took my first computer science class. Ironically enough, that was the first B I ever got. And I worked hard in that class. So between taking 16 credits and playing college basketball, I was very, very busy. I was also newly married, getting used to married life, which takes some time to adjust. I was also donating plasma twice a week and working part-time for my dad just to make ends meet, to pay rent, to buy groceries, to pay for gas, all those things that a college student needs. So ultimately, I couldn't sustain that lifestyle and I quit. I quit so I could work, and I was planning on going back to school actually. But at the end of the day, what it boiled down to was finances and lifestyle for me. Three things that I did to put me on the road towards success after dropping out are: one, I started using LinkedIn. I started working in sales for Go One, and I studied data science and machine learning through Bloomtech. So I'll unpack each of those. First, LinkedIn. LinkedIn has been an incredible tool for me since dropping out. I recommend it to anybody that's looking to progress professionally. My first two jobs I found on LinkedIn Jobs and applied through LinkedIn, and I got both of them. And my third job, my current position as a solutions architect, I was recruited via LinkedIn. So it's definitely a tool worth looking into, worth dedicating time to refine your profile, to refine your resume, to make sure that it's something that when people see you on LinkedIn, it piques their curiosity. It shows them somebody that wants to be successful, that is pursuing success, that has success. So LinkedIn has definitely been a major tool in my professional life and getting to where I am today. I also mentioned working in sales for Go One. That was such an awesome first job. I could not have asked for a better first job after dropping out. It was a great environment because the people that I was working with were dedicated to the idea that education is much more than going to school full time at a brick and mortar university. Go One itself is an ed tech platform. It's like the Netflix for e-learning. So they take all of these different online courses and they aggregate them, and then they sell that offering to companies. And what I did for them was I was a sales development representative, which basically meant I made 100 cold calls and sent 100 cold emails every day for a year and a half, which sounds about as fun. Well, it's about as fun as it sounds, right? It's hard, but it was an extremely valuable learning experience in the sense that I got to be rejected a lot, and I got used to being rejected a lot, which made me tougher. It made me more mentally aware of what to say, what not to say, when to say it, when to be silent, things like that. Communication was huge. Obviously, I'd have 10, 15, 20 seconds to catch somebody's attention and try to keep them on the line long enough to set an appointment with them. So getting into that role was a huge, huge success for me at the time. and put me down a path of learning, of professional growth, and just so grateful for that first role as an SDR at Go1. Third thing that I did that put me on the road to success was I studied data science and machine learning at Bloomtech. So when I quit, I was planning on going back to school, back to the University of Utah, in fact, and studying data science and computer science there. But when I went and talked to the counselors, they told me that even though I had about 85 credits, I believe, I would need to be at the University of Utah another 5 years. I'd have to study 5 more years in order to get my bachelor's degree, which seemed like a really long time for me for a bachelor's degree. And just looking at where I was and some of the goals I had, one of the biggest goals I had was to avoid debt like the plague. I really did not want to go into student loan debt. I didn't want to have that hanging over my head. And I knew that if I were to go to school for 5 years, the likelihood just increased greatly of me going into debt that I didn't want to have. So the timeline, the idea of having debt, I thought there has to be a better way. So that started me down my search for alternative education routes, and ultimately why I found Bloomtech, which they offered a 1.5 year long part-time data science and machine learning program. No money up front, no tuition up front. It was based on an income share agreement that after I finished the program and landed a job related to what I had studied and that paid me $50,000 a year or more, I could then start paying them 17% of my gross income for 2 years. So I knew that I would have to cough it up eventually, but I also knew I'd be making more than I was, and I would be learning a skill that was extremely valuable, and I wouldn't be in any debt, which was so nice for me and my personal goals. So I decided to start doing that. Along with that, they had an 8-week opt-out. So you could start the program, and if you did it for 8 weeks and you didn't like it, you could stop. So it was a great way for me to explore if I was really interested in it without spending any money, which I didn't have, and potentially learning a really cool new skill, which I did. I stuck with it. I ended up finishing the program in about a year because I went full time after a while. So by the end of 2020, I was done with my machine learning and data science education, and I started working for a company called Forethought as a sales engineer, which took my sales experience at Go1 and my data science and machine learning experience from Bloomtech and combined them into a single role for Forethought, where I was helping people use AI and machine learning for customer support, right? Chatbots, sentiment analysis of customer support tickets, that type of thing. Well, that's it for this episode of Dedicated Dropouts. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more insights in the future. Thanks so much for listening, and until next time, stay dedicated.